Hello, we are back with part 2 of the paperback journal. So the journal's done as we showed in the first video. Spine is done. These journals, because of the pockets, get fat. By the time you fill them, by the time you embellish your pages, by the time you put things in the side pockets, they are fat. And fat journals get a lot of wear on their spines. So if you had a smaller paper bag and you managed to do a paper, let me just have a look, a paper cover, then you're looking at maybe like about 25 by 15, then it would have wrapped around. You still probably need to reinforce your spine to prevent cracking. So if you do it as a front cover and a back cover and leave the spine open, the paper bags are quite robust, and then you can just make it look prettier. So there's a couple of options. First one being lace. There's a lot of give in this, and you just wrap it over and glue it. Then the stitching is hidden, and I mean it's decorated. Second option is a fabric spine. It works very similar. Just get something that the colors match. This is a stripy blue, all the colors are in. You then hide your stitching completely, and it's again just a strip glued down. And then the third option, which I like using, is this gauze. It's like wound dressing. I'm struggling with the English word, verband. And that gives a very, very soft effect, nicely textured. It frays nicely on the edge. You get a sort of shabby look, and they take color really well. So if you had like a distress spray or something, the gauze, that's the word, the gauze takes the color really well. So I think on this journal I'm going to go with the gauze, and I'm going to give it a distress color spray. When you do your backing, also keep in mind what you are going to do for your closure, because if you're gluing or anything on your spine, you want to hide that. You want to hide the mechanics of your closure. So next step is to consider the closure. Again, lots of options. Let's have a look. First and most obvious closure is just a ribbon. This is a velvet ribbon. You can also go for like a seam binding, something very soft. As you can see, it squishes. There's no stiffness about it. And I mean, it's a straight tie. And your journal ends up like that. You can leave it loose, or you can just put a dot of glue on the middle bit of the spine and glue the ribbon to that, so that when you open it, the ribbon stays part of the journal. It doesn't actually get lost. So that's option one. Another idea for a closure is to make something like, like these. They're very simple to make. It's a little bit of scrap fabric or scrap cardboard. I happen to have fabric, a punched circle, and an eyelet. I've got an eyelet setter, but I mean, this is a builder's warehouse hardware tool that works perfectly. The idea is that there's a gap between the little cardboard circle and whatever your backing is. And if you attach that to the front and the back, something like a baker's twine will go between the backing and the card circle as a tie, and then you can just loosen it again also. So that works. I actually think that's my preference. A version of that is a button. In this case, the buttons are a bit boring, so gluing another button. When you use buttons, just be aware this button's got a little lip, so it doesn't sit flat on the cover. Again, that whatever string you use can go underneath you just wind it. Another option is using a split pin. These are all variations on winding string round something that it catches on. But in this instance, I put the split pin through one of these decorative flowers. So you end up with quite a decorative closure because of the flower, and then the string, where did I put it? The string, get it out of here. The string then winds around the split pin to close, and then attaches to the back. Another idea, these little mini bulldog pins, bulldog clips, let's zoom out a bit, so they also work quite well because they keep the pocket closed. One on the front, one on the back with a length of chain between them. And if you keep the chain long, you can put a dangle on, so then your closure has a dangle. To get the chain on these little clips, you can either put a little jump ring, or you just unhook the whole thing and slide it on, and put it back in. Also then it gives, all of these closure methods have a bit of, that there's room for growth. What else can we close with? Velcro, that'll work. Velcro dot here and a Velcro dot at the back, and you just use a piece of fabric or a piece of ribbon or anything like that and just Velcro it. Then try and put on the gauze now. The gauze, the lace, the fabric will all work the same. You glue it across the spine. So let's start with that. I've dried it with my heat gun. If you want extra texture, you can even overlay a lace over the gauze. Again, it's preference. It's really how embellished you want your cover, or how elaborate you want your cover to be. I like this flower. I think it adds a nice bit of detail. The idea with whatever string you use, this is like a woven, I don't know, almost like a t-shirt material. The idea is that it's attached to the spine and that you have enough length that it wraps around a couple of times before you circle it. So this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 the width. The alternative to doing a lot of wrapping and having both sides wrap, which then ends up with quite a big one, is if you use the shorter one, that it ends on the spine. There's only one long side. It wraps once, twice, and then you fasten it. So when you loosen it, the long string dangles off the spine, but only one long string. So it depends on what look you're going for. I think I'm going to go for the very OTT. So what you then need to do is just make sure that your one side actually makes it round to be able to wrap once, and the other one goes round the journal however many times to then be tied off on whatever your closure is, whether it's one of these guys, whether it's a set of buttons, or whether it's, in my case, the split pin flower. So I've divided my string up probably in like 1/3, 2/3 balance. A little dot of glue gun or glue gun's probably the quickest. I've got the world's worst glue gun. So I tend to not use it, but I think for this it should be good. And then you hide all of that with your spine. While we are talking about closures and things, I can use the split pin flower because I can just glue it on top, or my cover allows me that I can hide the split pin on the inside. If I had done a split pin or something on the back cover, I would have had to do it before I did the pocket matting, because then I would have hidden whatever was going on there. So unlike me, please consider your closure before you do your matting. If you are using a split pin, just make sure however you fold it that there's a tiny little gap, maybe if I put a scissor in, that there's a tiny gap between whatever your flat surface is and the split pin head, because your string needs to sit in that little recess, because otherwise it won't catch. I've glued the string down. For this spine part, I suggest you just fold your journal flat. They lie flat nicely, especially if you burnished and braided them throughout, because then you can start layering over your gauze, your lace, your fabric, whichever thing you prefer. I'm going to do a double. I'm going to do a gauze and a lace, and then I like that the gauze just frays on the side, so that's not an issue. And then you can either stick it down with again glue gun, just little dots, or with a wet like a PVA glue. I'm going to use gel medium or podge basically, because you can really then it's also strengthening, and you can also really get the thing in the medium. So I'm just measuring my gauze. It's 9 centimeters, so that I don't put the adhesive or the gel medium too far over, and then to just make sure that it's center, so just a light pencil mark will do. And then, as I said, I paint on all my adhesives. Make sure your tie is straight and not turned or bundled, because obviously it's now also being stuck down for the little bit that's applicable where the spine is going. And you can give it a pull to make sure it sits tight. This will also enforce your stitching. That should work. And now I'm just going to lay over my gauze. Use your pencil marks to stay straightish. Just pat it in, and then normal procedure, brayer and wipe, if I can find my brayer, which I can. Once you've done the first layer, bend it so that you know there's enough stretch, and just smooth out any bits and pieces. And then I'm going to do another layer of the lace. This lace is quite heavy and it's quite thick. It's a Belgian lace. For that, I'm definitely going to use some glue gun bits on the thicker or more denser parts. again, just fold it once you're done. Have a look at where you are. If there's loose bits like that, if it bothers you, fix it. To me, I don't mind it. I like that there's some dangles and some ruffles. And then you can just cut it off when you get to that. So now, since the tie is now in and the spine is done, we can do the front embellishment. This is the back cover. I'm going to pull the tie tight and put a tiny little drop of glue there that it stays in place. So it's really just, again, make sure it's tight. Mind your fingers, not like me, you don't have fingerprints anymore because of glue gunning. So when you open it, this is a long dangly, that one stays in place. Because this journal will be opened and closed a lot if you use it for storage, I'm going to take the time to put the split pin through the cover. You can always just hide that little show. You can glue it on, but it's more likely to tear off then. If you want to, you can even enforce it with one of these guys. Because then you know it sits nicely, and if someone doesn't quite figure out the split pin, they can use the easier tie at the back. Just a note, I trimmed out some of these stameny bits because there were a lot of them, just to make the string go easier. I've made a dot halfway, and I'm just punching, and then I'm laying that. That's actually too big. Now that I've done it like that, never mind, you can cut it off because no one sees it. Here you go. That sits over the edge. Because the flower's soft, it doesn't really matter. So now you can start your tie, and take around the flower. And this one you can leave because it's glued, or you can again take it around either the flower or the thing at the back. This is a bit of a finicky tie, but you could have done just a ribbon if you wanted to, or you can still shorten the long one. I quite like that there's a whole process and then you get surprised by what's inside. Okay, what about embellishments and what about use of this journal? I've cheated a bit. I've taken out a whole lot of embellishments that form part of the Make Your Own Paperbag Journal kit. So what you can look at is like highly embellished tags, journaling cards. This is a sweet little fold out tag with tea-dyed paper to write in with a little dangle. Again, little fold outs, little snippet roll, cute little pocket made with pattern paper, some tags, some postcards. Again, things like this is a little flower. It's quite nice if whatever you use in the journal is echoing what's happening on the outside of the journal. Lots of little embellishments which make it quite nice. And I mean, it's simple. That's a little set of flags with an enamel dot. So yeah, and then we've got some dangles and things. So let's see how we can actually use this in the journal. What I like doing is to treat each pocket as a little gift bag. This is for a swap. So something like adding only doilies in the first pocket would be good to group whatever you are using. So what works well to keep whatever's in your pocket inside is a little embellished paper clip. There's a lot of YouTube tutorials. It's basically you hide one part of the clip behind a piece of card and it just slides over. I haven't tidied it up or anything, but you get the idea. The rest of the journal you can either use with your normal tuck spots or with, and that goes in there. Paper clips work well, pockets, anything like that. So if you had a little pocket like that, and you could just tuck in a card. So don't let the fact that there are paper bags throw you off the fact that you can write, you can put tags, you can put pockets, you can put belly bands, you can put anything like that. And then when you get to your little tuck spot again is when you can tuck in. It takes up to, this one takes up to a postcard. What works well is to have these little pull tabs. And as you can see, this pull tab is a little fragment of old book paper and a piece of lace. So that works. It's very easy to do that. You can also add tabs on the side of your pages, on your pockets, if you wanted to. This is a flatter one. So let's see, does it take a, yeah, it does. Something like a set of papers that will match in the journal, so your pen pal, not your pen pal, your swap pal or whoever you're sending it to can work on the papers. And then we're back on this. Maybe for this we can do a whole thing just of tags, and then, you know, close it with this little booklet. So anything that's sort of cute to close, either clips, split pins, Velcro, anything like that. Once you close your journal, the stuff won't fall out in any case. This has got stuff in, very little's falling out. So because the pockets are deep and they tend to fold, and by the time you add your closure, so don't be too concerned with keeping your pockets closed. I wanted to also show you this one didn't come out great, so if we can fix it with some tape, that would be good. So we need some wide washi. So for this one, I've put down the tape, and I'm just going to put down, it's a vellum pocket. So again, that shows you that even though you've matted the page, don't be scared of just hiding it again. Or just using a paper bag plain. You also don't need to matte everything if your paper bag is just a neutral color bag. Something else that makes a very simple embellishment is half a tag, or something just cut in a tag shape, and you just, my glue isn't working, you just glue the edge, and then it makes a very, very simple tuck spot. So those are the sort of embellishments that you can add in this journal. That just tucks in there then. As you go through. So it's just about layering what you've got. With the side tuck spots, give some indication of what they are for. For example, this envelope is clearly something else. Otherwise, the user won't know what to do because they're not expecting maybe a side tuck. So just a pull or a piece of ribbon or something, a little sticker, so that they know. And then like an envelope in a tuck spot means you can also have a lot of writing space there. Some of the pages can just be plain. Some of the pages just overlay writing paper. So something like that, for example, it's just 2 pieces of brown paper with like a hidden staple. I've added some of the offcuts from the cover, again just reflecting what's happening inside and outside. If you have a border punch, don't forget to use them. You could have also border punched your bags, in fact. Let's give it a go. That looks middle-ish. It's a tiny bit of detail, and I mean, you may think it doesn't add a lot, but it just gives a bit of interest to the journal, and you can do that really on any of the pages, or take the border through. The same with something like a flower punch or something. Just punch out a corner. I mean, that's quite sweet, seeing the back, and you wonder what's going on there. You can tie a little ribbon or a little string in there if you want. That'll also look quite cute. It's just about adding tiny bits of embellishment to a journal where you wouldn't necessarily expect it, just to elevate it a tiny bit. So I mean, that's if you had a colored or whatever piece of voile or something like that would look quite cute. I think that's about that in terms of embellishments and adding. You just add and you layer. One thing to keep in mind with the lace, you can also add a whole lot of dangles, or you could do a bowl pin with some beads, or because it tucks into the lace. So you could do some beads on there, and then your whole spine becomes dangly and pretty. To finish off your inside is 2 little punched shapes, anything you want, and some glue, and you just glue the ends of the ties with the shapes. They can be stamped, they can be anything really. On the long tying string, you can also tie some beads. If you don't tie them off with a knot, they'll move on the string, but that's not a big deal. Here's a big bead on the little tie, the shorter tie. Adding some beads to the string that you tie off, they need to be quite chunky beads, also adds a nice bit of interest to the cover. So there's some dangles, a tassel with a bowl pin. There's a big bead, and then the whole thing just wraps around the flower, comes up, wraps, and there's some dangles. You can go as crazy as you want to. Thanks for watching. I hope you have some inspiration to work on your own paperback journals, whichever form they may take.